So Christianity in India is becoming more like a joke these days. I usually don't do topics like this in my channel, but it has been concerning for a while. I've been watching a lot of shorts or videos recently on YouTube, especially talking about the kind of Christian practices people are following, especially the pastors, right? Very concerning. And of course, might have not spoken about this in any of my previous videos, but I'm a Christian and I believer of Christ, of course, and pretty concerning when you get to see those kind of memes that are circulating on Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, or even for that matter, YouTube long form videos, right? So people come out and criticize, especially this comes from other religions who obviously get offended by the kind of practices that other pastors preach or follow or talk about. And we are no longer in those kind of days where it's only happening in a closed doors environment and you're shooting and you're putting it up on YouTube's just to get some sort of a fame. Obviously people are noticing and obviously they get attention. You're dragging their attention, and automatically what happens is the moment you do something wrong and you preach something wrong, and that is happening consistently, and people are of course going to notice and talk about it, right? So this today's topic is all about that one, and I would like to share my views on that and perspectives, since I've seen what Christianity is in India and what pastors are in India. And I also gonna compare that to what I have been seeing in Canada for the last 4 years at least. Welcome if you're new to my channel. My name is Gautam Telugu, and I talk about HR, careers, life in Canada, and much more beyond that. And consider subscribing if you have not done so far. It's a win-win, definitely. Your journey, my story. I'm not in high energy today, so I'm going to talk a little. Excuse me for that, but this topic is really bothering for a bit of time, so I thought I should talk and open up my thoughts to it. And of course, my family believed in Christ. That was way back in 1989. My father and mother believed in Christ for whatever the miracle that happened in their lives, and my brother and I were children. Probably I would have been 4 or 5 years back then. And don't know much about any religion for that matter, of course. I know my parents were born as Hindus, and I was born as Hindu as well. However, whatever miracle, like I said, happened in my dad's life, and he believed in Christ, and my mother followed, and since then we have been continuing that belief, and later back in early 2000s, I think I took baptism, of course, with my willingness, and of course, you would take baptism only when you truly believe in Christ, and it's not like a forced. Mechanism that happens at OU family is Christian, so you have to get baptized. It's not the case unless you truly believe in Christ. Nobody's going to baptize you, or you wouldn't be accepting that as a fact for that matter, right? All that said, of course, I've had my set of reasons to take baptism, to believe in Christ, and continue that faith till date. So I've seen how Christianity leads you into believing in Christ, or the pastors, how they were back in those 90s and 2000s, and how they have been in the late 2020s, and how they are in Canada, and how what's happening in India now, and why there is a lot of criticism that is coming on this particular community in the last few months or years for that now, the matter. Of course, back in 1990s, or when during my childhood, I pretty much remember very well the pastors were so attached to its own people. They used to care about people. They were building intentional relationships. They do home visits. They pray when they come when you are in need of something, and truly try to help you out with any sort of thing. That's a true community spirit back in 90s. And We used to have Sunday school for children. Of course, the teacher used to be, very precise in telling those true stories from the Bible and, inculcate that faith in the children. Of course, there was a lot of learning back at that time. And later on, I moved to different cities, and Hyderabad is also one of it, and lived there for almost 15 years. And I've seen how the pastors are there and kind of churches that are there. Of course, moving from one part of Andhra Pradesh to another part, there's a huge difference in terms of the culture, the kind of people that you interact with. And of course, they were welcoming, and there was a sense of community and all of it. But the kind of leading methodologies would be different, of course. And I understood, and I moved on. I didn't really care, or it didn't really bother me. But when they, of course, later on we moved to a bigger church, considering that the worship is good there, and we thought, okay, the praise and worship is the utmost factor for us to probably differentiate ourselves into a different world. And we thought, okay, we'll move there, and we moved, and we liked it. And of course, I've spent good time in that church. And of course, and I moved to Canada in 2021, and here as well. Of course, when you enter into a church, or when one of the churches, you will not really be able to zero down on, oh yeah, this is the church that I belong to, or this is the people that I want to go every Sunday and worship for, right? So obviously, you do a test and try method, and you would zero down, oh, this is the church that I feel welcoming, and there are people who greet when you go there, or the pastor is building international relationships, right? So, and of course, we were able to figure out after a couple years that, okay, this is the church that we're going to, and we zero down, and we finalized on that one, and we're happy for the last 1.5 year. That's a church that we want to invest our time in and learn and see how it comes up in terms of developing our faith. All that said and done, what I'd compare how it has been really, which is coming up in the social media, especially on the pastors in India, and these were not new set of people who are getting those limelight in the recent days. These have been happening for a while, but people didn't really care about. Probably they might have done too much in accusing, or rather talking offensive stuff about other religions, especially Hinduism or any other religion for that matter. Obviously, when people notice it, they're going to be concerned, and they're going to point at you, or they will probably focus on you to see what is that you're doing, right? So when you try to play miracles which do not look genuine, and it's more like, playing a drama with sort of artists, and obviously people can easily figure out it, right? And it's all covered in the Bible, and I don't have to talk about it. The biggest difference that I've seen back home is, here people don't really focus on how many people are really coming to my church, right? So they don't compare or bother about volumes. But these days, even when I was there, I think some of the churches will focus only on the number of people that walk into the church, increase the number of services, expand, or take larger places. Only then it's treated to be successful, or have a huge setups, with very pretty colorful stages, and those lights and whatever decor, and wearing those blazers and whatnot, everything, right? So I've seen that. Of course, when you're talking about church, or when you talk about, or preach people that, oh, you stay humble, and you have to probably keep your faith strong on God, and lead your path and help others and all that stuff. And some of them may have been doing it, and on the contrary, and you ask others to stay humble, but you really wanted a lavish setups for your church, only to attract people to look colorful on the videos and the social media. I don't know how it doesn't really go well for me. I'm not a man of that kind of stages, but we've had churches back then, right? So Christianity is not new to India for that matter, and we have had pastors who have had simple churches or simple stages. They've had only what they needed. I'm not against buying good sound equipment, so that people have a subtle worship when they are listening to songs done by other choir on the stage, or when the pastor preaches. Of course, sound is important there, because it cannot go wrong there. But do you really need a high fancy setup with a lot of flower bouquets and all of that? So I don't know. I can't comment much on that, but personally, I do not like it. Some may like it, but I don't get it. But yeah, so when you say that, okay, when Jesus is the only Lord that you have to believe in and you have to come to worship Him, that is true. But the more you start comparing, or more you get into the offensive side of threatening people that, oh, you don't come to Jesus, then you are screwed up and you are not going to see another life, right? So that's enough threatening thing would not bring people towards Jesus, right? So you preach what you have to preach, I think automatically, in a subtle way, and automatically people will look up. And nobody told me, I don't think so, anybody forced me to believe in Jesus. And there's a reason, there was a way for me to come in, I've come in. So there were a lot of people like me who might have believed in that reason and might have come up. So as long as we could keep it in that way, I'm sure people wouldn't really care about what you talk about in your churches, right? So a lot of things do happen in the mosque. As long as those comments do not cross the line, I think we should be safe and good. But of course, there are only a bunch of pastors who bring that disgrace on the whole community. And these days, it's even more concerning when people get onto that stuff and, bring their bad image on the entire Christian community, and everybody gets looked at the same way, right? And the other thing is, some of the Indian churches or the Indian pastors talk only about money. Of course, Bible says that you have to give 10% of your earnings, or 10% of whatever you get through your hard-earned professions. It's more like giving back to the churches for whatever reasons, right? So people do take, and nobody accounts for it, right? And a lot of these large churches, they take money and they don't never account it for. I've been going to these churches. I've been to multiple churches in Canada. I've never noticed where the pastor just centrals where they centralize the topic only on money. Never have seen a single day where they talk only about money. Of course, in Canada or even in Western countries, there is a culture of giving, there is a culture of fundraising and all of that. Even my church is doing a sort of a fundraising for a family to support a family who have been a mother passed away due to cancer, and there were only two young kids who needed the financial support, and they didn't ask for money. They were doing a yard sale. If some of you do not know what yard sale is, it's very popular in the Western countries. People put up sale their used items, and this is like more like you're donating to the church, or you're putting up, or you're advertising in the church, and the church decides on a pretty nominal price, like $2, $3, or maximum. I think they decided on $5, $6 a product, irrespective of whatever it is. And people go on one of the Saturdays, which is happening this Saturday, and whatever the product that they need, whatever they like, they could purchase, and it's like whatever that money gets accumulated through that yard sale goes back to the family, which is in need of that financial support, which is a good thing, right? You're just not asking people money just like that. Rather, it's for something else. And there was also an ask for diapers for supporting mothers or single mothers. And I think they've received almost 500 or 1,000 diapers, which is extraordinary, right? And people do give here extensively, and of course, a lot of people in India also do give for building churches and all of that. So when there is real reason, just talk about it, and people will feel welcome to come and give out whatever they could to the best extent. But if you're making that as the only topic every day and talk about, oh, you have to give your 10% back to the church, otherwise God is going to give you, is going to take back everything that you have, or, it's not going to give you more, or you're going to collapse very soon. That is absolutely wrong. It's not going to attract people towards Jesus. It's going to get more defamed to the Christian community, and of course, centrally to Jesus for that matter, right? So I think that's not what we all want. And that's where all of these memes which are going on, Christianity songs, converting those Christian songs with the influence of the movies. And some people watch movies, and I do watch movies. I don't really have to shy about that. And I have my limitations. I keep my boundaries where it has to be, and that's good enough, I think. Right. So though I don't flip around this to there and movies to the churches or churches to the movie, and I have my limitations. When you draw those lines, I think you're clearly defining these boundaries. I think that should serve the purpose. So precisely all that I wanted to say is, don't generalize on very specific topics. And the more attention you seek on these kind of topics, I think it does more harm than good for the entire Christian community.